This episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast is brought to you by Bluehost. Try the #1 recommended web hosting provider. With plans starting at just $3.95 a month, you'll get a free domain, free site builder, easy one-click WordPress installs, and 24/7 support. But what's just as impressive as what you get is what you don't get, as there's no contracts, no hidden fees, and no gimmicks. Go check them out at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/Bluehost. You're listening to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast, the weekly show sharing proven methods and systems in marketing, equipment, and customer service, educational and motivational, to help make your lawn care business an overwhelming success. Now here's your host, Julio Tomei. Welcome, Lawn Care Nation, to another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I'm your host, Julio Tomei, and this is episode number 93, entitled Interview with Caleb Auman from Auman Landscape. Well, hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining me this week on another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I really appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in each and every week, downloading those episodes. I also appreciate, as I've said in every episode, the questions and comments that have been coming in into my email box each and every week. That is fantastic. As always, I would ask that you guys please leave a review on iTunes. It's probably the single most important thing you can do to help the show grow and show your love and support for the podcast. You can do that over at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/reviews, and there'll be all of the sort of worldwide aggregated iTunes reviews listed there. But also, if you're not a iTunes user, I would still love a review of the show, and you can do that simply by just emailing me. And you can do that on lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact. And that'll take you to the contact page. You can just write out a review for me there if you can't go through the process of iTunes. I still prefer the iTunes because it's sort of first and foremost, put there, and there's no denying that a review was left on for the podcast there. But if you absolutely cannot do it there, but would still love to leave a review, just email me the reviews and I'll figure out a way to get them onto the website as well. So that would be fantastic. And just sort of a precursor to the show, our next guest, Caleb Auman, will also have a special offer for you guys if you guys leave a review for the podcast. So stay tuned for that. Now, as I mentioned, our interview this week is with Caleb Auman. He started out in lawn care when he was younger, transitioned into doing the hardscaping side of the landscaping business or industry. He now does all mainly, pavers and walkways, that sort of stuff, and we're going to get into that. So it's a topic that a lot of lawn care guys probably do think of, transitioning into the hardscape side. So this is a fantastic episode if you're thinking about expanding your services and adding to that. So you can listen to how Caleb went about it, how he did it, and get some great value-packed information there. So as always, I'm going to play the podcast announcements first, and we'll get into the interview in its entirety right after this. So stay tuned. Hey guys, if you have any questions or comments about the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact. And while you're there, why not join my mailing list and get access to a free PDF document of a landscape maintenance contract you can feel free to copy and use in your own business. For you Instagram users out there, be sure to follow me at Lawn Care Business Success. And if you haven't checked out my videos yet, well, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe to the Lawn Care Business Success YouTube channel. Now, I know you guys love listening to audio while you work as much as I do, so I've partnered up with Audible to offer you guys a free 30-day trial and one free audiobook of your choice. There's no long-term commitments, and you can cancel anytime. And get this, even if you cancel during the trial period, you get to keep your free audiobook. It's a great way to try the service and see if Audible is right for you. So why not give it a try? Head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com audible. Now back to the show. All right, so I'd like to welcome Caleb Auman to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. Hey, Caleb, how's it going?
Good, sir. Thanks for having me on today. I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for taking the time out and coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate that. So I think we'll get right into the questions. So maybe tell us a bit about yourself and your business.
Well, again, my name is Caleb Auman. I'm actually the operations manager for our firm, Auman Landscape. We're a design-build company based in Southeast Ohio, down in the Fairfield County region. It's about southeast. It's southeast of Columbus, Ohio, right in the middle of the state, about 30 miles. We're about 30 miles southeast of there. So we're down in that region of the country there. And again, we're a design-build company. We do a lot of hardscape work, patios, retaining walls, and then we do some horticultural work too, landscape plantings, landscape designs, tree planting, that kind of stuff. We started out in the lawn care business, or I did, I guess, 18 years ago, and we've evolved to where we're at in more in the hardscaping and construction and things now.
Okay. So it sounds like, obviously, my next question was, is your landscaping business your main income, your side hustle? It sounds like it's your main income now.
It is, yeah, it is and has been for quite, actually my entire life, honestly. I've been self-employed since high school, and in the wintertime, I pick up some jobs here and there, side jobs, or just working in some friends' machine shops and plowing other snow for other companies and stuff. So and that's always served as a great reminder as to why I love working for myself and why I really a good reminder of how to work with your, what it's like to be an employee again, So that's always a great reminder when I'm working for other companies of, what it feels like to be an employee and how you want to be treated as an employee.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like when I was sort of researching the episode and looking through your Instagram account and all your photos and stuff like that, that you guys mainly do hardscaping stuff now?
Yeah, Yeah, Julio, it's the primary portion of our business. We're not a large company by any stretch, but we're not tiny anymore. We do about $500,000 a year, and so, like I said, we're not huge and we're not tiny, but hardscaping is definitely the primary end of our business. We've got one crew of 2 to 3 guys, depending on what's going on. That's all they're putting in is patios or something of the hardscape nature, if you will. So
okay, awesome. So what I know we talked before the recording here, and you mentioned that you did do mowing originally. Yeah. So maybe take us back to sort of the beginning.
Sure.
And how did you first get into lawn care and landscaping? Obviously, landscaping and hardscaping is a natural transition from the mowing for a lot of guys, and it sounds like it was for you as well. So maybe walk us into that. How did you first get into doing any sort of landscaping or maintenance or anything like that in the beginning?
Well, my neighbor's was a good friend of mine when we were growing up, and his dad started a lawn care business, and before I could drive, I was working with them. So in the summer and then after school, we'd go out and start mowing yards and stuff, and then when I got my driver's license, for about 3 months of the time frame that worked out, I was working for them, and just in high school. And I was quickly realizing I didn't like working for other people, and after about that 3 months of that, the season had ended, and I was like, I'm going to start my own thing. So I bought a little 48-inch Exmark Metro walk behind and belt drive walk behind, and nice. And I just started just hunting accounts and just doing everything I could to hustle mowing jobs, and I really grew into loving it from my friend's company that I worked for prior to that. And then just I went nuts on it. I just absolutely loved A, working for myself, and B, I love the lawn care thing, and then I was wanting to get into landscaping too. So it was just kind of working up through there, and learned a lot of good stuff, a lot of hard lessons, and kind of wherever we're at now. So
okay, so how did you initially transition from the lawn maintenance part to wanting to do, what sparked the idea of, say, the hardscape, and what was the main motivation there?
Sure. For me, it was, I've always enjoyed building things. And, I think I got that from my dad. My dad was a pretty skilled carpenter in general, I'd say handyman, but he's just an all around skilled guy. And so I would build a lot of projects with him here around where I grew up, and be it a small pole barn or just dad knew how to fix everything, it seemed. And so I really enjoyed just working outside with my hands, and I wanted to keep that going because I definitely couldn't sit at a desk all day, which ironically has come back to nearly what I do now. Running our company, so it's kind of, I don't know if that's going forward or backwards possibly, but I enjoy it nonetheless. So, but I was mowing grass, and I was really getting where I liked, the allure of these landscaping projects and doing larger jobs and just beautifying, a property or an area or a space or something. And it was getting about, to college time. I was out of high school, and I was looking around a couple colleges, and a lady referred me to Columbus State Community College, one of our local schools here in Columbus, Ohio. And they had referred their landscape design build program to me. And I was already kind of construction minded. I was enjoying that stuff because I'd read all the stuff on building retaining walls, and I'd build these little retaining walls and all this stuff. And I wanted to further my education with that. And so I started going there, and then they had some landscape architects that were professors and landscape designers and turf guys, and I just ate it up. My grades, oddly enough, didn't reflect it because I was still trying to run a business and all this stuff at the same time. Okay, yeah. And then just being a kid and maybe partying a little too much and doing all that silly stuff. But I loved it, man. I just absolutely ate up, just running a business and then having just the green industry in general. I just loved it. So just kept going through there, and then kind of got to a point where we kind of needed to make a decision on the lawn care or the construction into things and go from there.
Okay. So you, I guess, obviously found your calling in the hardscaping side of it. And I can see that for a lot of people. The lawn mowing can start to become pretty monotonous at times. And I can see where the hardscaping and like the pavers and stuff like you specialize in can really allow you to flex your creative muscle. And, can be something that you look forward to doing and planning and, doing that sort of thing. So, I can really, understand, that, sort of calling from a lot of guys wanting to transition into that. So it sounds like when you were doing the mowing, when you were first starting, were you just a one-man operation, or did you have crews already at that point?
Early on, I was a one-man operation, solopreneur, or whatever you want to call it, starting off. And I did that for years, and I started getting into this mindset of growth at any cost. And I just thought gross sales would save me, essentially. So we were taking on too much work and underpricing work, and I eventually was just getting consumed by the business because at one point I had 2 or 3 of my buddies working for me, and I was trying to be Joe Big Time Contractor with, running jobs and all this kind of stuff and doing payroll taxes and all this stuff. And I was still, 25 or 26 at the time. And it was just eating me alive. And it kind of all came to a head in 2009 when I finally went broke and forced a recognizing, if you will, of the situation and the circumstance of like, we need to drill down and focus and just focus was the biggest thing. I just needed to focus and learn to say no, because there was nothing we wouldn't take on. And I was working just insane hours, but the thing was, I loved it though.
Yeah.
Like I just ate it. I was just all about, I didn't mind working 14, 15, 16 hours a day, every day. I loved it. I didn't mind that part. But like I said, the business management into things really ate me up, and that's what got me eventually in the end. So that's been one of our biggest takeaways of, growing a business properly is, really paying attention to your numbers. And aside from doing really great work, because I was really always obsessed with just doing a really great job and building a really quality, solid project. But the numbers into things I didn't care about so much. And I guess part of that maybe had been youth and inexperience and all that kind of stuff. But some of it was, I'd be out for 12 hours a day and I didn't feel like coming home and doing books. And that was so detrimental that obviously it ended up, biting me. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big problem for a lot of guys starting out. And I know at least here, where I'm from, the government you can set up your business in different ways. But if you're a small business starting out, you have the option of, instead of reporting your sort of taxes and the sales taxes you've collected and all that stuff quarterly, you can do it yearly if you're a small business. And most people starting out are, a small business. So they tend to pick that route because it's less paperwork and stuff. But what happens is that you can end up working a whole year and think you're making a whole bunch of money. And then you do your taxes and go, oh, nuts. I could have, worked at McDonald's part-time and made more money than I
knew where
made.
you were going with that as soon as you started saying it, because that's what I did. I started getting behind in payments on taxes and stuff, and it just ate me alive. I got in really big trouble, like as far as you being behind on taxes and penalties. And because I did that, I just, this month wasn't so good. Next month, we're going to pick that up and do better, and we'll make money on this job, and we'll cover that tax bill and all that stuff. And that's exactly what happened to me here in the States. It was... I just became consumed with the downside of the taxes and all that kind of stuff, and forced me to really reevaluate things in 2009.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy little thing you can get down just because you're working so much. Like you say, you're taking on all this work and all that stuff, and people don't drill down on their numbers like you say, and then they'll go out and drop 10, 11, 12 grand on a mower, and it's like, is your business really need that mower at the moment?
Right.
Are you really making the money you think you're making to be paying off, or are you working all year long to pay your rent?
Absolutely.
Pay that mower.
Yeah.
And nothing left over in the end, right? So yeah, it can be a pretty crazy trap there. So when you started, after you went to college there, and you got, you learned, that, and you were consuming all of that. When you first started, what sort of jobs did you first start at doing? Was it like the pavers and stuff? And were you at that point still, a solopreneur doing it on your own?
Sure. Yeah. So wrapping up college, and at Columbus State, we kind of had a joke of like, the blue collar degree, and even the 8-year, 2-year degree, because so many of those folks in those trades, were working, full-time jobs and doing classes at night or whatever. Or like myself, I was running our little company at the time. And so I wouldn't be taking necessarily full-time, class, quarters at the time. And so we were, so it took me, and truthfully, truth be told, I never achieved or received my piece of paper. I think I'm like 8 credit hours short of my 2-year degray. Isn't that terrible?
Okay.
So over 8 years, I did finish everything, but I just absolutely just was enthralled with all that they were offering there. And then even continuing, I was constantly going to continuing education, things like GIE, down in Louisville, Kentucky, Green Industry Expos, and all sorts of, any training I could get my hands on, I was going to and trying to absorb, and trade magazines and all that kind of stuff. So leading into that, the type of jobs we were taking on was just anything I was ready to take on. And, so be it, paver patios or retaining walls, or not real big projects either. At the time, we're still on 25, 26. So we're taking on, $5,000 projects, and nothing insane by any stretch, or huge commercial jobs or anything like that. So we were just kind of going through, planting 10 trees on a property, or, putting in a 400 square foot patio. We were just, as it trickled in, and part of, when you're a startup like that, it's tough. You don't have the portfolio of work behind you. So you got to work extra hard to convince somebody that you're the guy to build their project. And so it took a while to, build that rapport, I guess, of we're your guys for hardscape work, or, this unique situation that needs a retaining wall, and why we're the guys, and all that stuff. So we had, I'd have 2 or 3 guys working with me through then up to about 2009. And like I said, then things finally came to a head, and we restructured in 2009. I'll just go into that, I guess. We restructured in 2009. Like I said, went completely broke. Cleared payroll the 1 week, and I think I had $20 left over. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was dating me at that point in my life where I had no money. Things were as dark as they could have been. and she stuck with me. And long story short, had to close that business. We started a new company, and she's now the owner of it. And I'm, like I said, my official fancy sounding title is the operations manager. We've got 3 to 4 guys working for us on top of my wife and myself. So like I said, we're not real big, but now we're running those 4 guys at peak season, and now things are really we're hitting stride now finally. So, but from 2009, just starting over, we went back to myself and one other guy, and even my wife and my girlfriend at the time. We went back to cutting grass and to kind of reestablish, and then taking on side projects of patios or just whatever came through, and then just again kind of restructured the business, rebuilt up. And now then we sold the lawn care business, and it wasn't anything huge. We weren't doing, I think we had 40 accounts on the route. Yeah. And so then that business needed to go to 80 to 100, or we needed to close it, as far as accounts goes, because it needed to turn at least, 6 figures worth of income. And neither of us were willing to take on that, because it's its own business itself, right? Like a lawn care division, if you will. And neither of us were wanting to go there, so we sold that and then just focused on construction, landscaping work and all that kind of stuff. And frankly, I don't miss it, even though if I had to start over again, I'd probably do that again. I'd probably buy a zero turn and go right back to cutting grass and rebuild from there if I had to. Lord willing, I'll never have to do that. But that's the direction we would go. So It's a great, starting out mowing grass is a great place to build rapport, build a company, build a client list, all that kind of stuff. You can really go places just by starting a lawn care business. And, if you do it smart or smarter than I did, you can build up a route that's sellable too. And I did not have a route that was really valuable because I didn't have it structured real well as far as, contracts and all that kind of stuff. So, but at that time we were just so happy actually to be out of mowing, because we were so distracted with the construction into things. Our customers and clients weren't getting the service that they deserved. And so we kind of bowed out of it. And, like I said, we haven't looked back since.
Awesome. So, the next question I have here for you is one that I love asking, and a lot of times the answers are usually relatively the same, but I love asking that question because it just sort of drives the point home, and that is, how do you define success?
And that's such an awesome question because it's so subjective to everyone's opinion, right? And one of the best things I ever heard said about success was, was Robin Williams successful? Was Chris Farley successful? Or name anyone whose career has been cut short for whatever reason. And and it's not about the money, and it's not about fame or anything like that. Were you? And ultimately, I guess what it comes back to is, are you happy with? I never dread Monday. Yeah. And I think that is success to me. I know people that just absolutely dread going to work Monday through Friday, and I never. Once in a while I do. I got a project or something that's really irking me or something's going on. But I mean, that's more just that particular item, not work itself. And so I just never dread Monday. And to me, that's success. Financially, we're always building to what we're going to call financial success. Yeah. And that's a whole nother discussion. But, as far as having minimal to no debt and just being comfortable and continually learning, and having a healthy family structure as far as work time balance, which is the huge thing now, right? So especially we have kids, so not having the business consume me like it used to. That's success to me. Just that is success to me. Just being control of my time and flexibility of my time, and still financial success on top of that comes with that is that's success to me. And we're always striving to better our success, I guess.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. That's, like I say, I love that. The question, like you said, is subjective to a lot of people. Sure. But the answer is always sort of around that same sort of theme.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're all doing. That's why I think your audience, if they're listening to this, they're either striving to get to that point, or they're at that point of why they're self-employed. So they're striving to be self-employed, or they're or they're self-employed now, and there's a reason for that. And I think exactly why the entrepreneurial thing is really so popular right now, because, people don't see security so much in the big 9-to-5 work weeks and stuff, and the big corporations and all that stuff. And I think that's why the entrepreneurial thing has just gone nuts with any industry, really.
Yes. And I remember seeing, and like I said, the question I love, because I see especially this day and age with the Instagram and the Kim Kardashians and all that sort of stuff, that young people are led sort of, astray almost, that they see stuff and they think that, I have to be like that. I have to have, this facade of, all this gold and chains and the fanciest name brand clothing or
the fanciest zero turns on the trailer.
Fancy zero turns. And
it's all relative,
Yes. And that's, that's how it is. I remember like as a kid growing up, I think in my whole time growing up, I would see maybe in my whole lifetime, maybe 3 Ferraris in the area that I live. And now, at any given intersection, there'll be, I remember sitting there once with my wife going, this is crazy. Look at this intersection. There's like 3 BMWs, a couple of Range Rovers. There's a Ferrari over here, a Dodge Viper over there.
Yeah, right.
It's like, where are these people getting all this money? And the truth is, they're all in debt. They're all making these crazy payments on things, trying to live a lifestyle because that's what they think is, they overlook that the family part, the simple things. And I remember seeing a bunch of studies where it's, once you hit that sort of $70,000 threshold a year, that you're not getting any happier. Once you hit that sort of thing, right? Once your basic needs are met and you're comfortable and you don't have to worry about your bills, you could make millions after that and you're not going to be any happier than you were at that point.
Yep.
And people forget that. So that's part of why I love that question, because it sort of
it's a great question.
The point to, especially the young guys growing up, that, don't go into crazy debt and get yourself think because you think that's what it's all about.
Yep.
So do you guys offer any other services besides the, now I normally ask this question as far as lawn care and offering other services, but with you guys in hardscaping and stuff, do you guys offer any maintenance at all, or any other services that aren't directly that hardscaping stuff?
Sure. We have a few properties that have stuck with me even through thick and thin over the years. I've got some clients I've had for, we still work with, for 15 years now. And we still maintain their properties as far as I've got a friend that has a mowing company, so we subcontract them to mow, and we subcontract a fertilizer company, which we used to do, the chemical treatments. And then we still do their landscape maintenance, where we'll stop by every couple weeks and police the beds for weeds and, just keep the place, really looking tip top. And
Nice.
So we do that a little bit of the management into things, but not a whole bunch, because that's definitely for our higher end clients, I guess. But we still do landscape maintenance as far as true landscaping is concerned. If you need somebody to stop by every couple weeks, do weed pulling, or just check on things, or whatever. So we do offer that. A lot of it also is part and parcel to the staff that we have at the time. If we've got a guy that's a really good carpenter on staff, we'll take on carpentry projects, pergolas and fencing and all that kind of stuff. So it just really depends on the skill set of the guys we've got at the time. And we've got 3 really good guys right now, 1 excellent hardscape foreman, a really good planting install expert, and then just general really good help on top of that, as well as I got buddies that are firefighters and equipment operators that's come in to help us on bigger jobs and stuff. So I'm trying to build this pool of labor, if you will, around me, because of this. Like we were talking earlier about the nanopreneur market, or just how many solopreneurs there are now. I'm trying to pull all these guys I know that are really good in their respective fields, be it just really skilled help or skilled operators. And I'm trying to build this network, all these guys and even other landscape contractors, where we float these dudes back and forth to build, to build this network of just great help that we can pull in as we need. And so as far as other services goes, it just depends on, who we've got staffed at the time working for us. So other than that, just basic landscape maintenance and any kind of installation work. I mean, if you've got a weird, we put in 25-foot telephone poles last fall for a parks district so they could mount solar-powered radio transmitters on it to play audio tracks. that talk about the park. So, I mean, we do installation of stuff like that because we consider ourselves a landscape construction business, design and construction business. So, we really pride ourselves on being able to install stuff that maybe some guys would look at and be like, that's not really my thing. And we try to be, kind of turnkey in that regard of like, we're willing to take on the stuff that's maybe a little more challenging, or because my foreman and I study so much, as far as just across the trades, be it concrete or, general construction or whatever, we really try to be fairly well versed in a lot of different things so we can take on these cool projects. That's what we enjoy about our work is just doing unique projects. So, and so we do still a lot of like cookie cutter, if you will, style patios and stuff like that. But we do enjoy taking on some unique stuff. You can rent now the forestry mulcher machines. So we've done a couple of those projects where they you shred like essentially it's an insane bush hog, that mow down trees and stuff. So we've done a little bit of that work, but you got to be careful when you branch out like that, because that's you can really get yourself in a bind if you're not pricing properly, and you got to be willing to walk away from that work if it's not priced at where you think it needs to be to make money. And that's one of the reasons we don't do deck work or anything, because between my foreman and I and my guys, we understand square, plumb, level, straight, all that stuff, but we're not efficient at deck building.
Yes.
We can do it and do a darn good job, but we're not efficient enough at it like we are laying paver. I mean, we can crush a patio, like paver. Like we're really efficient. We've got great tools for that. Deck building, not so much. But if we're slow and we're hungry for work, we may look at it a second time. It's a long answer to your short question. I apologize.
No, that's a great answer. I totally relate in that. With me, in mine, I'm strictly lawn care. I have thought about branching out to do, the patio, like pavestone type stuff, just because I see it as a great opportunity to make some good money in that area, and also not be, the mowing can be there's like there's at times a million trailers out there with guys pulling. It's such a low barrier of entry.
You bet.
And some customers, although I pride myself on building my reputation and sort of attracting the long-term client and stuff, there's for every one a client that I'm interested in, there's probably 100 others that just care about who can do the cheapest, and every 2 weeks or every 10 days instead of weekly, and they just want the cheapest, sort of thing, right? So you get into that sort of dog eat dog type world with the mowing at times.
And man, it's that way in everything. I mean, we get, it's the same deal with patio construction, especially you get up up in Columbus and stuff in that market where there's a million foremen the guys that used to foreman for other companies that have quit and started their own company. And so, paver work up there is pretty competitive. And if you don't separate yourself with your own rapport, and it's the same with mowing, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to separate yourself on the quality you provide, the accountability you provide, and the reliability that you provide. I mean, because there's always going to be those clients that want it done cheaper or, less well or, whatever. That's just across the board, So, so I guess my thing is to guys like, keep that in mind. There's always going to be those clients that are going to beat you to death price wise. And you don't want those guys, maybe as you're building your business, you can deal with that for a little bit, but eventually, you're always going to be culling through, clients that, to build a list of clientele that's going to be your best paying, people or whatever. So the mowing thing, that's what's so great about mowing is it's such a low entry, low barrier to entry. And that's also what's so bad about it. But I think ultimately it's just like, and you're in Canada there, but I guess I would say it from my, it's just one of the greatest things about American capitalism. Like, you can just go out tomorrow and start a business and do that kind of stuff without, being regulated to death. And, I think it's just one of the greatest things about the mowing company because it's provided. I mean, look at how many guys are on YouTube that have said, they lost their job and they were devastated and they just started mowing grass. I mean, I've listened to dudes on your podcast tell that story. Just like they're just at a loss for what to do. And they're like, well, heck, I'm just going to start mowing some grass. And it turns into something like they never would have imagined. And so I think like the lawn care industry in that end is like, we should be happy, I think, as an industry that it's brought so many guys and people and women and stuff and, out of maybe a dire situation. So I think it's awesome about our industry too, is like, it's helped so many people in so many ways.
Yes, absolutely. And and I always remind people, I tell the story, like in the beginning, it's tough because you're starting out, and like you say, you'll take on anything because you may have come from that dire situation and stuff.
Yep.
But as you learn and you grow and the years go by, you start to become more and more selective in what you start to realize, you know, the types of work and how compacting your roots and stuff, the little things where you can work, literally work less and make more money doing little tweaks without really, you know, mass marketing and all that sort of stuff, because of those little things that will make you a lot more money because they're, you know, saving you tons of fuel or things like that instead of driving across the town and things like that going to each client.
You're dead on, man. That route density is a huge thing, because that's one of the things too. I was mowing stuff all across the county. I was going everywhere.
Yeah, and it's,
you're exactly right.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And that's where you get into that, yes, I'm super busy, I'm making tons of money, but it's, are you really? Because
at what cost? You're
spending so much of it on fuel. You know, all that sort of stuff. And it's amazing how when you can take a smaller, like my whole when I first started, I was in a franchise and they were sending me all over the city. And when I decided to go out on my own and build my own brand, and I modeled it after another company, I've told this story before on the podcast, but another company who's now, like, I think they're pretty much worldwide now, but they started here in Vancouver, British Columbia, and it's 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Yeah, and amazing guy. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, and so I've modeled my brand and my company after clean trucks, the uniforms, all that sort of stuff, and working in a tighter neighborhood. And I remember people saying to me, like, "What are you, nuts? Like, why would you only work in this tiny little radius?
Limit yourself,
right?" And it was like, they didn't get it, but I had the experience of the opposite, of working all over the city and stretching myself out. And the neat thing is once I started compacting and only taking clients in this basically corner of the city, not only did I make more money because of not having to drive as much, but I also got way more clients easier because they kept seeing my vehicle and trailer in the same area. It wasn't like I was here in one part of the city and then, you know, they don't see me for a whole week again because now I'm stretching myself out all over. They saw me on a daily basis. The truck was either, you know, on this street today, but then it's the street over tomorrow working on 3 or 4 houses. Then so you became this fixture in the neighborhood, and it became so much easier and so much faster to build the company up again by focusing, niching down, and just, really narrowing down that area. So that's some great.
No, that's great advice. And it really is true that condensing your routes, you know, has benefits that compound over time and even closely, like exactly like you're saying. Bad thing about it is, though, man, if you have a bad experience with a client, oh no, because they're going to tell the neighbors in the neighborhood. So you really got to be on your game, and you really got to bring it. So that would be
it's totally, and that was what I was all about, was the brand, the image, awesome. And all that sort of stuff. So with your pave stones and your hardscape stuff, are you mainly doing residential projects, or are you doing commercial, or both?
Yeah, we're probably 95% residential. So we do a ton. And you talk about density, it's just insane in our county here, Fairfield County, Ohio. We rarely leave the county. We don't really market much, but we've done probably 6 figures of of sales just within 5 miles of our shop.
Okay.
And so that density thing comes back, and to where we're solely residential, essentially what it comes down to. And so we're doing a lot of patios for empty nesters, people where their kids are finally off to college or whatever. And we're doing and that's kind of the trend of our industry, period, is people are just putting more money into their homes, just period. And which is great for you and I, the guys that work on them. And so that's been our primary client is primarily empty nesters, or just folks that maybe aren't traveling so much anymore, and they're putting a lot of money into like a nice patio space and things around the house. So that's been a big thing for us, is our residential market. It's huge.
Yeah. I think all of the TV shows around home improvement and house flipping and renovations and stuff really lends to that, gets people thinking.
Oh, for sure.
And then you have great, apps and things on your phones and things like that House app that let you really narrow down if you want to look at. It's crazy, right? The ideas that people can get, looking up patios or something, and you get like this unlimited supply of photos of different ideas and stuff, and it just gets people, their juices flowing and wanting to do that sort of stuff in their own spaces.
You bet. I can't get over ever the influence that those mediums have. I can't tell you how many of the same type of project I saw from people pointing me to, like, hey, we saw this on Pinterest and we really like this concept. And, it was a set of swings around a fire pit. I must have had 5 people, different, unrelated, show me the same concept. It's just interesting how those trends flow around through those things. So there's a huge thing right there that you're talking about as far as, all these different mediums that are putting emphasis on, on the home space essentially. So man, you're totally right.
Awesome. So it sounds like obviously residential is your thing, and you. It sounds like you prefer it over doing commercial work.
It has its pros and cons. Ultimately, like anything, I've got a buddy that prefers commercial work because there's less personal interaction and there's less sometimes demands, I guess, that you got to deal with, unlike in residential where, you're working on that person's castle, you're working in that person's home. And so every decision that's made there affects them, as opposed to commercial, not so much. I've got buddies that prefer the commercial work. I don't mind talking to people, and I don't mind working out issues and decision processes and stuff like that. So I like residential. I just like people in general. So and pay terms are better because, you get your money up front, money as soon as you're done. Commercial is, and even with mowing, commercial is, you're always on terms, 30, 45, 60, 90 days. That's just terrible. I don't like that. And, but again, there's guys that do that solely. It's their bread and butter. They love it. And that's, again, that's all going to be to each person's, liking. But I know we like, if we could make residential as easy as the commercial process goes, that would be awesome, but I don't think that's gonna change anytime soon. So but that's our niche right here in our market, so that's what we do.
So maybe we'll touch, I know you mentioned a little bit about this. I think this is what you're going to get into with this question. You sort of, like I said, precursored or touched on it earlier, but share with us a time that you struggled in your business and what you learned or did to overcome it. Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the things I love talking to people and I don't care if they own a pizza shop or a multi-million-dollar construction company, like everybody's dealt with, some kind of crazy struggle. If in most cases, like at some point, and it's all universal. Like we all, no matter what the business is, we all deal with the same issue of, employees or cash flow or whatever you name it. So I don't know, I guess the big thing is like when I started off mowing grass by myself and, making money doing that, my first 3 years were probably my best because I wasn't trying to be necessarily like Joe, big time contractor at that time. Yeah. And, but then from then on, when I was trying to be Joe Big Contractor, and like I said, not necessarily just buying a bunch of shiny equipment or anything, but just like trying to get all these crazy jobs and just working myself to death mowing and doing installs and all this stuff, it really just became a struggle for like the next 6 years. Okay. And just trying to build this company. It was really growth at any cost, and just with this mentality of gross sales will save me, trying to get to $1 million in gross sales, which I never even hit. Mm-hmm. And but I was just taking all this work trying to hit the gross. I didn't think the bottom line mattered so much until I got my gross sales up to where 10% margins mattered. Yeah. And so I struggled for a long time because I just was being dumb about the financial end of things after about my 3rd year, it seemed, because I was still living at home. I started my business and things are all cushy and comfortable that way. And then you move out and it's a game changer, right? Yeah. And so I struggled for a long time. And like I said, that finally came to a head in 2009 with an incredible state and federal tax bill and some other bills I was way behind on. And I really realized, like, holy cow, I'm absolutely broke. And just had to reset from there and started listening to Dave Ramsey And it was all the advice my dad tried. I always listened to my dad with construction information. Like I really tried to absorb all the construction techniques that he'd teach me, and just the principles of building. Plumb, straight, square, level. All that stuff. And but I never wanted to listen to financial end of things for some reason. Dad'd say, "Son, you're spending a lot of money out the bars and restaurants every night." And oh, Dad, heck, it's $30 here and there, or whatever. Well, every night a week that adds up.
Yeah.
And that was a huge, not as an insane party animal. So, but I mean, just going out to eat and just death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I was wasting all this money I was making on top of just every other spare dime I had. I was buying a new trimmer. I was buying a new blower. I was buying, all the cool gadgets, that made a business go. And because I was just enamored with making a good business. I just wasn't concerned with financially making a good business. And so I struggled for a long, long time, and even still, we're not totally out of that struggle yet. And because of the mess I made with the decisions I made, we're still working our way out of it. And my wonderful wife is, for whatever reason, stuck with me through it. Actually, she stepped into it, is how crazy she is, and stuck with me rebuilding it. And it's not me either. It's we rebuild it, and with our guys who stuck out some really rough times too, and always made payroll, but that doesn't necessarily always count for the owners. And we had some really, really thin years. I still hate spaghetti because that's all we ate for a year when we were broke. And it stinks that I like spaghetti, but we ate it every meal nearly. The whole Dave Ramsey beans and rice thing, rice and beans, well, it was spaghetti for us. And man, we ate a lot of spaghetti in 2010 and 11. And but it would, like I said, it got us, some debt paid off, and it got me looking at money as, something that, just wasn't passing through. It was something we need to be building and saving and building net worth and, having some money in the bank. So say some other poor sap is having a hard time and is going broke or needs to sell his concrete saw just because he needs money to pay the rent that month or whatever, we can jump on those deals. Yeah. And so I'm a huge advocate for, have some cash, build up some cash savings, and, even I won't tell you necessarily use credit so much, but have a relationship with your bank so you can jump on a good opportunity if one presents itself. But the biggest thing is just having cash and all that kind of stuff. So I struggled for a long time, and we're still not through it yet, but we're getting there, and we're darn close. And with the grace of the good Lord and my wonderful wife, we're coming out of it. So awesome. Those are the two people I got to thank for sure.
Fantastic. So what is your favorite thing about being self-employed?
My personal favorite thing is the flexibility of my time. Mm-hmm. Is, especially now we have really good staff in the field. When my dad was having cancer treatments and all that stuff, I was able to pull away from the company a tremendous amount to do all that hospital visits and all that stuff. And, any other family medical emergency or just anything, I was able to pull away from it while the company still operated. And not perfectly smoothly or anything, but the company still moved forward. And that's been one of the best things always. I can take off and go to training so I guess the flexibility of my time is just one of the biggest thing I love about being self-employed. And two, I heard it, called a book. You can write your own book when you're self-employed. It doesn't have to follow some rigid corporate structure or, you are your own author, and you can be your own finisher too. And I think I was my own finisher to an extent, but, you can write your own book. It doesn't have to be any particular way other than the way you write it. And, that's my biggest thing with being self-employed is we get to write our book, but but the thing is too, like that doesn't mean don't take advice and don't seek mentorship and all that kind of stuff. You need to craft your own path, but you need to reach out to people that are smarter than you. And I definitely, I'm not the smartest guy around. That's for darn sure. That's pretty obvious if you talk to me for more than 5 minutes. But the big thing is like just trying to always absorb information and knowledge from other people and their experiences, good and bad, and maybe even more so the bad experiences. So you hopefully figure out not to go there, So Long answer to your short question again. Sorry.
No. It's funny. It's totally true. And like I say, that's another question where the answer is very similar. It always, it ends up being something around the freedom of your time and being able to choose your time and what to do. And it's funny, like, even, when I'll phone my doctor and I need to make an appointment, the reception, and I'll be like, usually I don't mow on Friday, say, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll say, I prefer a Friday to the receptionist, and she knows that I own my own company, and she's like, well, how about, she says, Friday's booked up, but how about Wednesday? You're self-employed. You can take the time off, right?
Yeah, people
says, you have the freedom.
Yeah.
She's like, you have the freedom. You've got your own business. You can come whenever you want.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of funny.
You add an extra zero on your paycheck too while you're at it, right? Like, you got all the money if you're self-employed, right?
So what ways do you guys market your business, and share your maybe number one marketing tip? Sure.
Well, we're in a small rural county with a couple clusters of some fairly dense, in our county here has got 146,000 people in it. My nearest city, Lancaster, is 38,000 people in it, and then Carroll, where I'm really from, outside of Carroll, it's got 524 people. So I'm a huge proponent in networking. I just try to meet and know because we try to be fairly drilled down, like in the county for density's sake. So I try to just constantly be meeting people and saying hi. And you and I had talked about being, introverted and stuff like that. And I used to be fairly bad about that myself. And I really kind of came out of my shell. I started coming out of my shell when I started my company, because I realized, like, if I don't go out and start talking to people, about what we're doing, we're not going to go anywhere. And it forced me to come out of that a little bit. And also, too, with some public speaking stuff I did in 4-H and FFA, which helped me come out of that shell. And I was fortunate, though, to be talking about stuff I liked and enjoyed. And so I was passionate about it, and that helped me come out of that shell a lot, and if not entirely. And so, like, coming back to the marketing and things, like, I just like talking to people and networking and just mentioning, trying to get in a conversation that we, what we do and all that stuff, but being tactful, that's huge. You just don't come out, throw a business card in their face and say, hey, I do this, how can you help me? It's quite the opposite, actually, of, how can you help them, but not necessarily just financially with your business or whatever. So the big thing, like networking, our website is huge for us. We're redoing our website currently, but a well search engine optimized website is critical. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody types in, paver patio, Lancaster, Ohio, we come up pretty high on the ranking, if not top. Retaining wall, Lancaster, Ohio, retaining wall, Fairfield County, those, just whatever keywords, that's huge. And we've played around with the all the Thumbtack and Howls and all those kind of things. We're not seeing a lot of promise out of that for the type of work we do in our demographic, because again, we're kind of an older rural demographic. But you get into like a hip and modern part of town, that stuff is I think a game changer. Where you got younger folks. But again, we've got a lot of like baby boomers we do work for. So they're still almost phone book era, still. But, we're coming out of that, but still the Google search is huge for us. So networking and our website, and then of course social media stuff a little bit, but I think that pertains to the younger demographics. Okay. So that's my take on it.
Okay. So what are your future plans or goals for your business?
We're constantly really focusing on, and this winter was a big one, of organization and trying to be more organized. I'm trying this year especially to get ahead of my estimates so I don't have a constant mountain of quotes hanging over me to get done. And so returning quotes within a week for, it's different than just a mowing price now. It's, we got to, we design a project and we, send revisions back and forth. So it's a process that takes a while. So I'm trying to be really fast with that. So that's a big thing. But our biggest thing is sticking still around the $500,000 in sales, but really refining profit on that and refining our margins, gross, net, and our own personal salaries. So we want to make money to where we can keep buying really good equipment, the best efficiency tools. That's been a big push of ours, is efficiency, because it's, as everyone knows, it's really hard to find really good help that you can afford for under $100,000 a year in a salary. So we're putting a lot of emphasis on efficiency. So anything that saves our existing guys' labor, we're buying it. Tools, machinery, like we're investing in that huge. And so that's been a big goal of ours. And so we're kind of like multifaceted. We have some really drilled down specific ones, but efficiency and organization is our two top. Refining our profits where we're at now, and then eventually we want to maybe double in size, but that's about, I think, where I want to be. So
okay,
but the double in size is like a 2 or 3 year thing, maybe if not a little longer out than that. So refining where we're at in systems is our big thing.
Awesome. So you've mentioned your girlfriend and now your wife, who stuck by you through all that times, and you guys obviously got married, and now you have children, you mentioned. Yep. And I noticed on, I think, Instagram, a photo of her, and I think it said it was your wife in the caption, and she was running like one of those plate compactor machines in the background and stuff. So she not only is, sort of doing, you mentioned how she was setting up the stuff for you here on Google with Google Chrome and stuff to get it to set up for the podcast, but she's out there getting her hands dirty as well at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we rebuilt the business, she definitely was. And that's what's one of the reasons, like, one of the reasons I married her, but, B is, she can get out and sling block with the guys, she can swing Bursa lock around. She's a dainty chick too. She's not so, she's a small gal, but she can get out and get it done with the guys we need to. She can hop in a skid steer and move it around, do whatever we need. Like, she's pretty cool. So I'm just ridiculously blessed to have her, but still at the same time, like, her business sense is really good, and she's really good on the technical end of things. So she runs our QuickBooks and saved me from myself there as far as getting into another tax mess. And and then too, like, she's really a pretty darn good landscape designer also. So I'll send her kind of rough thoughts of what I'm drawing out, and she'll refine it in a 3D program that we'll submit to a client. And she's really good on that technical end of things. And actually, I'm looking at her across the desk here, and she's working on a design on a project we'll be putting in this spring. So that's a huge thing with her. She's all around just pretty skilled and really smart, and on top of that, really good looking. So this whole hillbilly's done pretty good, man.
There you go. I bet she's blushing.
I got really lucky. One of the things about running a business with your spouse is what I tell people. On days when it's really good, it's okay, and on days when it's bad, it's freaking terrible. So, it's one of those things where it's a double-edged sword sometimes, because our office is in the house here, and then our shop is actually just a couple miles up the road where our guys meet and our trucks are and equipment and all that stuff is. But if we're having a bad day in the office, we're 6.5 feet apart, and if a job's going sideways, or I'm just irritating her like I normally do because I'm just a pain to work with for a husband. I'm looking at her, and she's grinning at least. So but it's really awesome to have a good partner in the business, and just happens to be my wife, and that's one of the biggest blessings I think anybody can have. So definitely. Yeah, no,
that's awesome. I was actually going to ask you how it was working with your wife until you mentioned that she was just sitting across from you. So I was like, I'm going to leave that one alone, but you answered that.
It's all good, man. Her and I both know how it is. And I swear we work together better than, it's really one of our common threads is like we actually, saw a tremendous challenge in front of us rebuilding the company, and she likes a challenge. She really enjoys that, I think, which is, we didn't want to be in a bad financial spot, but it really was good motivator for us too. Like, it really was a binding glue, because we essentially went broke, absolutely flat broke together. So we had nothing together, and now we've got something together. And, all the while, at least we had each other. And so it's cool. We actually worked really well together. Her and I actually finished up a project Saturday. We just went out and put in some poly sand on a paver patio. The guys had pretty much finished up Friday, and she and I went out and just finished up a couple things on the project, because the guys we try not to send our guys out on Saturday if we can avoid it. So anyways, we went out and wrapped that one up, and I missed that because we haven't worked together like that in a long time, because now we're wrapped up with raising kids and just all the guts and nuts and bolts of running a company. We don't get out in the field much at all anymore, if at all, really. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's nice. And it's funny, that reminds me, my wife doesn't work directly with me. She's a elementary school teacher, but she will get out there and help me if I need to during the summer and things. And in 2015, I had my trailer was stolen and all the equipment was taken, and including the ride on and all that sort of stuff. And I had to obviously continue my route, but was still waiting for the insurance and all that was going to take a while. So I went and pulled my backup mower out of the garage, and I went and bought a trimmer and a handheld blower to sort of get me going until the insurance stuff would come through. And because of these jobs where I was normally, sitting on a ride on doing these bigger properties for the ones that I had, she was right there giving up her summer alongside me, pushing the mower so that I could do the trimming and stuff and save that time so I wouldn't be out there all day long by myself and stuff. So when you have somebody like that, your spouse that is through with you through thick and thin and is ready to step up when you need it, it's definitely a blessing.
Definitely, man. That's wonderful to hear. That's cool, man. So you did good there.
Yes. So I think we both found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
For sure. At least I did. I don't know about my wife. I don't know what she saw. I think she's half crazy, but step into what she did. But here we are, and here we are. So that's what I got to say.
Awesome. So we're gonna transition a little bit here and talk about your Instagram. Okay. And so you've got just over 900 followers on Instagram. It's a great account. You've got fantastic photos of all your paved stone patios and walkways and all that sort of stuff. And you mentioned too that your supervisor also has a Instagram account for the company as well.
Yeah, my foreman Bo runs. I've got my own Instagram handle. It's our company name, Auman Landscape LLC, and then my foreman started one a while ago too, and it's just Auman Landscape. But he runs kind of more of a really up to date and up to the minute, not up to the minute, but up to date. Like project, kind of diary almost like of what we're working on that time or old jobs we visit. So it's more the hands-on field thing. And then I treat mine more as hopefully an informational thing or a value-based thing, and into stunting some work, showing off some projects that we do and all that kind of stuff. And I think Bo really enjoys putting the work that he crafts up there because he does a phenomenal job. So yeah, we're pretty happy with all those photos they were able to post because it's some really nice stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we had mentioned now that before when we were just chatting, you mentioned that you have a DVD that you developed, basically walking people through, I guess, teaching people how to do paved stone patios and stuff. And this stemmed from questions that you kept getting over and over again from the social media on people asking you how you do that sort of thing. And you started looking for YouTube videos you said that you could refer people to, and you couldn't find anything that was as complete or as informative as you would want to be telling them.
Right.
So you decided to record your own sort of video series on how to do this. So tell us a bit about how that all came about and, how that developed.
Thanks for asking. It's one of those things I started a Snapchat account, I think it was 2 summers ago. And then through our Instagram too, like I kind of treat my Snapchat as a informational like diary almost of like what I'm seeing in my jobs. And my mantra has been, all killer, no filler. So it's not pictures of food or my kids or any of that stuff. It's all construction. It's all business. It's just what, we deal with. So it's a little dry sometimes, but it's just all killer information, I believe. And I was getting a lot of questions from people and kids and guys starting up and, hey, how do you do this portion of a patio? Or what do you, how do you start out? Or what do you recommend? Blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. And I was helping everybody best I could, but I was really trying to find a video that was really comprehensive essentially of like all the elements as much as and there's great stuff on YouTube and some guys that put out some fantastic content, but there's still some things that I differed with, or like it wasn't as deep on some topics as I wish it would have been. So instead of trying to figure out like 19 videos to send guys to, or 3 or 4 or whatever, like I was like, what the heck with what the heck, we'll make our own video. And it's one of those things like we were starting to it's just gonna be like, okay, we're just gonna, shoot this video real quick and put it out and, all this stuff. And you just snowballed into like a 2-day shoot, 2-day video shoot, and like thousands of dollars in the cost of making it and all this stuff, and rented cameras and production, all this stuff. And it's not even that fancy video wise, but it snowballed really crazy on all of a sudden. And, but yeah, I mean, it covers everything from, setting your grades and your initial project setup and staging of materials to setting your grades and your excavation and compacting your subsoils and how to compact your base materials and your screeding beds and how to pitch those proper for drainage, and just all that stuff is super in depth, like 2.5 hours long. So I think it's a really good, actually I know it's a really good resource. We've gotten really good feedback for it. So, but we called it the comprehensive guide, how to install pavers. And the reason we called it the comprehensive guide was like, now we're getting a lot of questions. A lot of people ask us to do one on retaining walls, and we've gotten quite a few requests, so we may do that. We'll see. I'm kind of waiting on the right job setup to do it, where it would be kind of textbook type stuff, but as far as the setup goes, so we're kind of waiting on the right job to film. But the paver pad we actually just set up here at the house, and just pretty much made a 10 by 10 dedicated space. And we talk about everything from like how handy it is to have a porta potty on site to we tried to cover literally everything in the, and I think we did a darn good job. Anything I think of after the fact, they got a couple 3 points here. Like, I'm going to send up a follow-up bulletin email of like a short little snippet video of like, hey, this is a couple things to keep in mind also. So, like I said, I started it to help people, and then, we've gotten great reviews on it, so we're happy with it. So thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
No, that's awesome. So how can people get access to the video if they want?
We have a Shopify account through our company for it from Auman Landscape. So you can just find us on Shopify, Auman Landscape. If you follow us on if you follow us on Instagram, you can message me through there. We'll either send you the link, or we've actually done a few where if you email us, we'll email you an invoice from QuickBooks. You can pay online. It's $99. I guess for anybody that would be interested, through this forum here, or this format, like if you buy one here because you heard it on the show here, I'll take $15 off of it, or 15%, whatever, and off the $99. And but you got to write a review for the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast, either on iTunes or write a review on an email, and get it to Julio here. I guess he can explain maybe a good way to do that, if it's okay, if that makes sense to you. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's very. That's a great idea, actually. I think that would be fantastic. So if people are wanting to look at Caleb's video and order it, it's on DVD, you said?
Yeah, it's a 2-disc DVD. It sounds 2-disc DVD. Yeah. It's because we were going to try to offer an online download, but the thing was like 13 gigs, and it was just we were having issues with people trying to download it. And we actually sold 2 in Canada, so I guess we're international now.
Oh, so, there you go.
Yeah, right. We're big time. We made it. So, yeah. So I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, it's 2 DVDs. It's 2.5 hours long. It's really in depth. If you don't want to learn how to install pavers, it's going to be boring and you're going to hate it. If it's not entertainment, it's strictly educational. And it shows the equipment we use. It's pretty darn good. We're very happy with it. So. Yeah, so just either message us through any of our social media stuff or find us on Shopify. So, and yeah, the deal as far as you and I had kicked around like, what to do, I guess. But I hopefully people will tell you what they're already thinking of how good a podcast you're putting out, and some really cool guests and stuff. So I hope it helps you get reviews so you can keep making this thing a success with the podcast.
No, that's awesome. Thank you very much. It's a great offer for people, and a great way for them to support the show as well by leaving a review on iTunes. So again, just to recap there, if you guys are interested in Caleb's DVD, you can either go to iTunes and leave a review on iTunes, and then I would say probably just take a screenshot of your review the next day when it shows up there, and email Caleb so that you can show him that you left a review. And if you can't or don't have access to iTunes, because I know it's difficult for a lot of people, I've talked about numerous times on how the review process on iTunes isn't the greatest. You can always just write me a review in an email and send it to me directly and say that you're interested in Caleb's DVD, and I will forward that information to Caleb, and he will give you that very generous discount on his DVD set. And it sounds like a fantastic way for guys that are thinking about transitioning to have a sort of a whole project there where they can see right from the planning process all the way through to completion of the DVD. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you very much for the generous offer. It obviously will help the show out quite a bit, saves them some money as well, and I think is great for everybody.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So maybe tell us a bit about, let's get into more about this process for guys maybe thinking about, they're sitting there and they're, doing the mowing, they're doing the landscape maintenance. And normally I sort of ask this question in the sense of somebody with, say, a part-time job, and they're thinking about getting into lawn care and doing that. And I asked the guest, and this is a person that and what would be the best piece of advice that you would give that person thinking about transitioning and starting a lawn care business. But for you, I'm going to switch it up a bit, and I'm going to say this person is already in lawn care, and they're going through the mowing and all that stuff, and they want to transition into hardscape. How was it for you, and what would be your best advice? Maybe your second best piece of advice. Your best advice would be buy your DVD.
No, I'm not that selfless, but I'm close.
Your second,
shameless. I'm not that shameless, but I'm pretty close.
So what would be?
My first piece of good advice would be marry a good woman. So
there you go. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I can attest to that one too. What would be your second best piece of advice as far as transitioning into hardscape and that sort of stuff? What should people be looking to do?
Sure, and there's so many guys that are kicking that around, and I'll tell you, it's one of those things, like, the grass isn't always greener. By the way, like, there's bigger money possibly on the line, but with bigger money comes bigger risk a lot of times. So, so before everybody just thinks, well, man, because great money can be made in lawn care. I mean, you can really make a respectable living in lawn care if you do it right, and and really drill down, like we were talking, route density and the higher, clientele that appreciates quality that you provide, you know what I mean? And in turn pays you for that, you know what I mean? That's how they show their appreciation, right? So don't just think, well, I got to get in bigger dollar jobs and that's what's going to, save me or whatever. 'Cause that's part of what I got in my head early on too and got myself in trouble. So just make sure you're getting into it for the right reasons, that because you enjoy it, I think is huge. And I would say start consuming information, consuming knowledge. Like, start watching a million YouTube videos on whatever. I don't care if it's retaining walls or power washing or whatever. If you want to branch into something, start learning and buying every book and just start consuming knowledge and information on what you're doing so you can be the best. Because there's nothing that irritates me more than a guy that starts a mowing business and can't identify the types of turf grass in the yard. Like, you're not a lawn care professional. You're just a guy that mows the grass. Mm-hmm. And I'm motivated and inspired by guys that just eat their craft up. I mean, just love it and just know every bit that there is of why that lawn has got brown spots in it, because it's got, a turf disease or chinch bugs or whatever. Like, I really respect and admire the guys that drill down on the knowledge into things and are just the absolute best at what they do. So, like, same with the, construction into things. Just start consuming a ton of information and start really studying your costs of what it would cost to get into that game. And, even just, once you're ready to take that jump, I guess what I recommend in a video too is, like, kind of offer to intern for a company that's actually, I specifically talk about this in a video, like, reach out to a company that's an hour and a half away and offer to intern for them for a couple days a week for a month or just whatever on their hardscape crew. And be it unpaid or whatever, but if you want to learn and you want to put in the grind and the hustle, this is what it takes to get that experience, because you can learn someone else's mistakes and not, have that costly mistake on your books.
Yes.
And you can learn from somebody else's experience. So I recommend go see if you can. And some guys are going to be receptive to this, and some guys aren't because they're going to see it as a threat. But that's kind of narrow-minded. If you're that far away, you shouldn't be traveling all that far anyhow. But
yes.
But offer to work a couple days a week and explain your situation. Like, I want to get into this industry, and I want to be really good at it, and I really respect what you've done as your company, and you put in some high quality work, and all this stuff. And reach out to them. And some guys, like I said, are going to be turned away by that. And other guys, I think the smart guys are going to see that it's good for the industry for somebody wanting to get into their industry, right?
Yep.
And, go intern for those guys or gals, a couple days a week if you can do it, or one day a week, or anybody. Just go learn by doing on top of, just consuming information.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, just, even build, like I guess kind of harp on, build a practice pad at your grandma's house or out in the field or whatever. And just, if you go to a local supplier or local vendor and tell them what your intentions are, I bet you they're darn near give you a set, 100 square foot of some old brick they got out back that you could lay in a demo pad. And a good rep, by the way, is going to see that and be like, I need to latch on to this dude because guess what? He's going to be buying product.
Yes.
And so reach out to a good rep in your area and tell them what your intentions are and say, I wonder if you could hook me up with a fat discount on some stuff because I want to build a practice pad because I want to get into this.
Yeah.
And start and build a practice pad and tear that thing apart and redo it and until you feel comfortable with it. And then it's time to swing out on your own and just know your numbers, know what it costs to do it, and know what you're willing to work for. And starting out, you're going to probably do a couple jobs cheaper than they should go for just to get those under your belt. And or maybe you don't have to. I don't know. That's something you got to decide what it's going to take. But it's too hard of work to do too cheap for too long. And I did it too cheap for too long for a while. So believe me, I know we could go another 2.5 hours on just the dumb stuff I've done in business. So, but I could write a whole I could write a whole encyclopedia on that probably. But that's the big thing. Know your numbers. And go from there and just attack it. But sitting around thinking about it for too long isn't going to get you there. You eventually got to attack this thing one way or another through learning, consumption, and practice, and then you got to go for it. So I'd encourage you to swing for the fences when the right time comes.
Yeah, awesome. Are there any specific type of equipment that's required for doing, say, a basic patio that you would say is a must? And is it something that somebody should just rent, or is it something they should be looking to purchase, like those plate compactors or anything like that?
Yeah, the big things like skid steer loaders and stuff, the big stuff, and depending on what your capital situation is, your money situation is, like I would encourage you to buy the small stuff first if you can, like a concrete saw, an inexpensive self-leveling rotary laser, and one of the best pieces of advice I heard the other day was the best compaction equipment you can afford at the time. So ideally, if you can find a 5,000-pound centrifugal force plate compactor, because that's the industry minimum for what you need to compact materials properly. Most of your base lifts are going to be about 2 inches thick. When you put in your base, so compact your subsoils with that thing, compact your, and there's a lot to this. So this is really the general glaze over.
Yes.
But you can still rent that stuff. But I would buy a saw. If you're going into it, and you're going into it, buy a saw, buy the stuff will eat you up rental wise over time. The skid steer will, but that comes with, you just gotta do that when time comes. So yeah, buy the small stuff when you can. And then, when it seems like it's going to be viable, buy a skid steer. You're going to need a skid steer pretty much. And I'll tell you, some of the mini machines are so good anymore, like the dingo style, mini walk behinds. We've got a ditch witch that we love. But any of those mini walk behinds are a great, not to mention like another whole service builder. Like you'd be surprised, where you can go with that. But of course, all your basic tools, levels, squares, marking scribes, and there's a couple paver tool companies that will really help you out there. And Pave Tool is one we really like. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't know, but those guys have a great lineup of tools, and they're super helpful dudes, and they'll help you out there. But so buy the small stuff and just work your way up to the big stuff as you can afford it, but don't get in over your head, because it's easy to get caught up in, like I did, in the who's rolling what rig deep. And everybody wants the F550 crew cab dump bed with a backpack toolbox and a 20,000 pound, deck over trailer with a skid steer and a mini excavator on it. But, you're talking $180,000, at that point. And that's tough to recoup your first year, if not impossible.
No kidding.
So you got to go easy and you got to go baby steps and just don't get in over your head and don't make it to where you hate it, because you can make your self-employment the same deal with a 9-to-5 where you hate your own job, and that's not the place to go. So just go into it easy, and don't hesitate to reach out to me if I can help you any way I can, like as far as advice or my experiences. Don't hesitate to reach out to me through any of our social media stuff or whatever. I'm willing to help, because I don't want to see anybody make terrible mistakes I did. And if I don't know how to help you, I know people that can, because I hang out with a lot of people that are much smarter than myself. So that's my long answer to a short question again.
That's awesome. No, it sounds like you're very obviously very knowledgeable. You've been doing it and got quite a bit of experience just from your Instagram account alone. Some of the stuff that I was looking at there was just phenomenal. The quality of the patios and the walkways and stuff like that. So you obviously know what you're talking about. And I really do thank you for coming on to the show and sharing a bit about your knowledge there. It's wonderful when you find somebody who knows so much about their craft and has gone through those hard knocks and still remembers what it's like to start from the beginning. And is willing to share that knowledge, and willing to, and like you said, not afraid of, or worrying about, like I get the question sometimes about, you're giving up all your secrets with your podcast. You're
right.
telling, your competition is all, they're all listening to it. Right. Why would you do that? Why would you? And, I have the same answer that I tell in the story. I've actually told the story probably like 3 times in a row now on the podcast, about my daughter with the pulling up to the garden center. And, the other company pulled up beside me and they had a nice shiny truck and everything the same as mine and fancy logos. And my daughter looked over and she looked at me and said, "Dad, there's your competition." And I looked at her and I said, "I don't have any competition." And
that's right.
And it wasn't, being cocky. It was that my only competition is myself.
The guy in the mirror, you bet.
That's right. And letting other people worrying about all that other outside stuff. And that's why I share, because you're, like it says in the Bible, give a man a fish and feed him for a day, or teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime. And that's basically what it's all about. When you open your eyes to the true entrepreneurial mindset, there's so much work everywhere. That's
incredible. Yeah.
I can't do it all. There's no way I could even do it, even though I've niched down my business into a smaller and smaller part of town. There's still way more that I could ever imagine doing. So that's why it's like there's no competition. So to find somebody who has that sort of same mindset, but in a different field with hardscaping and stuff like that, that's fantastic. And I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast and giving up your time to share that. And also your generous offer. Like I say, I'm not, a lot of people know that I do a lot of affiliate things with the podcast to sort of help pay off, the fees associated with running the podcast and stuff. And I'm not an affiliate with your DVD or anything like that. So it's very, there you go. But very generous of you to offer a discount to the listeners for obviously for leaving a review and something that helps the podcast. So that was very generous of you and shows to the type of person that you are. So I really appreciate that you would do something like that, because you obviously could have very easily just come on the podcast and said, you know what, it's $99 and that's how it is. And take it or leave it.
I'll tell you, man, I think collaboration is and I'm not alone in this, and I didn't coin this, but I think collaboration really is the future of contracting, and even like lawn care and stuff. Like you said, you're trying to have a very drilled down route, or condensed route.
Yeah.
And the same with us. Like, I'm reaching out to other kids starting up landscaping companies, even locally, because you're right. I am my biggest competitor. I've lost more jobs to myself by returning a phone call late, or missing an email,
yes.
or being late to an appointment, or whatever. I've lost more work to myself than a competitor will ever take from me.
Yes.
And so I think, like, by reaching out to our community, right? Like, because you may reach out to a lawn care guy in your town that's across town, and he'll get, hey, one of my clients' cousins lives over in your neighborhood. Can you take care of him? And I think the collaboration thing is huge, and so I'm trying to reach out and network with a lot of my quote unquote competitors. And especially the startup guys, because they're going to get into projects that they don't want to do, or too complex or dangerous or risky or whatever for them. And I want those referrals. And I'm going to have, little 3-yard mulching jobs that I can't charge enough, that a client would pay, but that would be perfect for these guys, for these startup guys, for like a little 3-yard mulch job. Perfect. They charge half of what we would, just because of all the infrastructure we have. So like, I think that collaboration thing, and then too, even like combining, I have really, really good friends with my friend that started an excavating business, and some other guys on their own businesses. And so with us collaborating, we can take on bigger projects now, just like with the big boys, that have all this equipment. But I think collaboration is the future with the nanopreneur and the solopreneur, community going on now. Like, that's where a lot of the work is going to go, I think, in the future. So that's my prediction. Write it down, whatever. So thanks for letting me ramble, man. I appreciate you. This has been really fun.
It reminds me of a story once where I was driving to do a lawn, and this other company was doing a hedge. And the name of their company had the word hedge in it. So obviously they specialized in doing hedges. Yeah. And they had this corner lot on a busy street, and they were doing this hedge. And the thing looked like they had like a laser level. Yeah. It was so crisp and so nice. Yeah. And I was like, that is awesome. And I pulled over, and they looked at me like kind of strange, and I waved waved at them to come over. And the one guy came over, and I was like, that is freaking awesome. How did you do that hedge so straight? I could never do a hedge that good. And he kind of like took a step back, like, really? Like, you're a competitor and you're praising
his mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just totally. And he was like, thanks. Right.
Yeah.
And then,
right.
And then he just started like, talking about it and stuff, saying how he loves doing hedges and that's his specialty. And I was like, that is so awesome. I could never do a hedge like that. Great work, guys. Keep it up.
That's awesome.
Totally awesome. Right. And then a week later, I get a call from a customer asking for a quote. And they said, such and such from hedge company told me to give you a call.
That's
and
it.
I was like, there you go.
Yep. You nailed it, man. I'm telling you, it's scary. When I was kid contractor, that's why I refer to myself when I was younger. And I'm only 34 now, but I still call myself kid contractor back when I was in my mid and early 20s. Like, I used to be of that, like, my competitor, oh no, they're in there, a new company starting up, and and these guys that roll up with real flashy rigs and just all this stuff. And what I come to find out is, like, those guys are either doing really well or they're setting themselves up for a hard fall.
Yeah, yeah.
And so don't worry, they'll either going to be around or they won't. But again, you're your biggest competitor, and by exactly what you just used as an example, like, you never know how it's going to come around. So there's no need to be mean mugging everybody, in town. Like, chances are everybody can help each other for the most part. I think our industry, and really most industries, are like that. But like, everybody's too guarded about the wrong things.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome you did that. That's super cool.
Yeah, it just totally reminded me when you were talking about that and not being afraid of your competitors and stuff like that. So that is awesome. So thanks again for coming on the show. Like I said, I really appreciate it. And the offer is fantastic. I can't believe that you would be so generous to do that. Like I said, was totally not expecting you to be able to offer something like that to the listeners of the show for the benefit of the show in having podcast reviews and stuff.
Well,
so that's
I hope it helps you. So that's cool, man. I've had a great time, and thanks for letting me ramble. Obviously, I get to where I ramble on like I am now. I'm really passionate about what I do. I really love it and I enjoy it, and I'm blessed with a career like that. So thank you, man. And for the time you put into putting in a podcast, I can only assume the amount of time this thing consumes to put this stuff together for every single podcast you've done. So I, thank you for that, because that's, that those things take a while to show reward, I guess, other than just the sheer fact of the joy of putting it out. And like you said, help people. So thank you for all that time you put into that, man.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Well, there you have it, Lawn Care Nation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that information-packed interview with Caleb Auman from Auman Landscape. Especially interesting for you guys who I know have thought about expanding your services and getting into that hardscape side. It's a very natural progression for those in lawn care to want to expand into that sort of repertoire of work. And Caleb's DVD set on how to install a pavestone patio from start to finish basically sounds like a fantastic resource. It sounds like he was very sort of filling a niche market or need there where he couldn't find videos to refer, complete videos that he could refer to those asking him the same questions over and over again on it. It was something that he saw a need for and wanted to provide. So as mentioned in the podcast there, I'm not an affiliate of his DVD series, so I'm not getting paid for him to sell the DVDs or anything through the podcast. I just wanted to mention that so it doesn't sound like I'm trying to do anything or get anything out of it in that sense. So I'm very grateful that, for one, Caleb would offer a discounted code. He initially just asked me if he could talk about the DVD series on the podcast as well. And because it was completely relevant to the conversation, I thought it would be a perfect fit. But he was completely fine with if I didn't want to talk about it. So in that sense, I think that's fantastic as well. He wasn't trying to push on it. As he said in his own words, he didn't want to seem like somebody that was just trying to come onto the podcast just to push the DVD series or something that he had made. So he was really trying to give you guys a lot of value. And like I say, it's fantastic that he would actually offer up a 15% discount on his DVD series for you guys in order to help promote you guys leaving reviews on the podcast. So that's fantastic. And I thank Caleb for his generosity in doing that. So again, if you guys would like to take up Caleb in his offer on a 15% discount in his DVD disc series on how to install a patio pavestone from start to finish, basically, you can go to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/reviews. That'll take you to a link to the iTunes reviews. You can leave a review on iTunes, take a screenshot of it, and just email Caleb and let him know that you did, and show him the screenshot, and he'll give you that 15% discount. And if you can't do it through iTunes, if you're not an iTunes user, I know there's a whole bunch of hoops to jump through to leave a review on iTunes. So, for him to also be able to just do it by, you guys writing an email review that you can send to me first, and I can confirm with Caleb that you did that, and he will honor that 15% discount on his end for the DVD series. I will put all of the links in the episode description for how you can reach Caleb on his website, through his Instagram account, his Snapchat, and all that. And also, I'll create a short link or a pretty link to his Shopify account if you like, and you want to check out his DVD set for sale. You can do so by going to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/Auman. And that is spelled AUMAN. So lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/Auman. And that'll take you right to his Shopify account for his DVD series on how to build a pavestone patio. So I think that's it for this week. Here's to wishing you guys all overwhelming success and freedom in your lawn care business. Bye for now.